Our purpose in life is to seek knowledge every single day, then turn around and pass the torch of knowledge on to someone else. If you want to leave a legacy, seek knowledge and pass the torch. All right, we are on another episode of Pass the Torch podcast. Tonight we have Zack Miller, the one and only. Met him through my brother, actually. So he's actually meeting the entire Santos family at this point.
Zack, family reunion.
That's it. Family reunion, the best with the twins. He is the founder of StartWithHatch.com, and we're going to go right into it. Zack, welcome to Pass the Torch podcast.
What's happening?
What's happening,
it's
brother?
Good to be here. I've seen your other brother. You now. I expect to, go to all the family reunions.
You were invited to the barbecue.
Perfect.
Absolutely. The number one question I always ask every single guest is, what is your why? What got you started in your journey, and how did you get to this point?
Well, it's a great question because I think a lot of people have probably been in my shoes. So I did exactly what everyone told me to do. I went to college after high school. I spent, am still spending a lot of money on school. And I graduated, had probably, decent grades, had a journalism degree from West Virginia University, and then went and got a job in corporate America and was, there's where the quote should be, your quote unquote, working for the man. And it was really interesting. For 6 months, it was pretty cool, probably because it was a honeymoon, and I was still excited about it. But then I really started falling out of love with it, to the point where I'd go to the bar every night till 2 a.m. with a couple of people, and I was just miserable. And this is the way I like to describe this. This is like 2007 to 2010 time frame, so almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
Imagine meeting someone on the worst day of their life every single day of your life. That is what journalism and TV news is.
Wow. And
so imagine someone's son being murdered. Imagine someone's husband, getting into an accident and dying. That's not a fun thing to be a part of. And I definitely didn't go to school for that. And then you get into the politics of dozens or hundreds of egos in one room, and it's just not fun. And so I realized, I think I'm supposed to be on this earth for another reason. I don't know what that is yet, but I have got to get out of where I am. And so, simply put, I for a year tried figuring out what to do. So I worked in TV news for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And for that last year, I decided I wanted to get out. And I couldn't really find a place. I was trying to go to all these lateral movement places. Let's do the same thing at a different place. Maybe move to a different market, do the same thing, different place. And I just kept going, this isn't the right fit. And so I ultimately realized that I wanted to be happy, and being happy wasn't going to be where I was at that point. And so my why is to be happy every single day of life.
I love it. And what makes you happy is learning about other people, understanding their stories, and just immersing yourself in something bigger than yourself. Or
it's a hard thing to track on what is the one thing.
Yeah. It's
a hard thing to track, to say, hey, as long as you do this thing every day, it'll be good. Because it doesn't really work like that. It's just this feeling that you wake up and you feel like, oh, I don't feel like I did before.
Yeah.
And that feeling of before was not fun. And there are occasional days where I wake up and I'm like, oh man, this is really hard. But it is not I'm miserable in life hard type of feeling. And so as long as that means spend time with family, friends, do help a lot of people with business, do stuff like this. All those things make me feel really, really good.
Yeah. And
I can make a career out of that. So it's okay that it can be a plethora of different kind of non-quantifiable things, if you will. It's just
definitely
be happy.
No, it's huge. And all of this, again, I'm just coming back up to today, led you to start with Hatch.com. Tell us a little bit about that. What got you started on that vision?
Crazy story there too. I was working, so I finally got on TV, and I'm working for. I met a guy, and he was working on kind of a project out of his garage, and was like, "Hey, I think I can. I think we can grow this. I'd love for you to come on and basically be the face of the company and grow it." And I was like, well, I was miserable, so I was like, sure, I'll do that, whatever. And I learned a lot about business at that point. So for 6 months, I really researched a lot and helped grow the business. We were at one customer. We probably got to 30 customers. We were at, me and one other guy, we got to 11 employees, somewhere in the vicinity of 7 figures annually. And so we were growing this business. But I was working with a lot of early stage businesses like every single day, and started investing in some of these businesses, becoming partners in these businesses, like co-founders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we started hosting these educational meetups for early stage businesses. And what was really cool about that is I started to fall in love with that. And I started falling in love with helping these people a lot. And what's really, really cool about that is people started, like this is 2010 timeframe, people started to attend events. And people were really excited about learning, meeting other people, networking. And we were able to make money off this, basically. And I was like, oh, maybe there's a business model here. And so I kind of started transitioning out of that business and kind of starting Hatch, which has been a lot of different things over the years. And I think that's fine as a business.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to be changing over and over again. And at first we were investing in businesses that, if you can hear, by the way, one of my other wives is my dog in the background who decides only when I'm recording videos to start barking.
It's the same here, brother.
So we started investing in different businesses, and that became kind of Hatch. And so over a year and a half, we invested in 13 businesses, I believe, of which we made roughly a $20,000 check. I raised a small little fund.
Yeah.
And then we got somewhere around 6 to 8% of business for that. How do you want to do this? Want me to let him out real quick and then come back?
Oh, you're good. You're good. We have a dog too who does it all the time.
You might not stop for an hour is all I'm saying doing this.
It's all good.
Be good. So we took roughly a 6 to 8% stake in each of these companies and helped them grow. But while doing that, and I think this is what's really, really important, is we had a business model that was self-sustaining, and it was going to be cool for the long run. But there was all these other businesses that we weren't helping, and they were asking us for help.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can't help you. We don't have a business model for you. But at some point, I had this aha moment. I did a TED Talk, and it was about helping kind of the business community. And I decided that maybe we could start charging these people for these services that we do. And so ultimately, people were looking for ways to grow their business, get more exposure, get people to go to their website, get people to sign up for their email list, get more visitors, get more people into their doors. And we were able to help them do that. And we decided to create kind of a business model with that. And so that one of our products was called 1004. We do that by creating kind of a network of all of our stuff in one thing for an annual price.
Yeah.
And then, so that's kind of like the long story of how Hatch started. And then throughout time, we just continue to add different pieces. We've done events, meetups, courses, you name it. We've probably tried it. Investing in companies. I mean, it's just a lot of fun.
Where you guys? Where are you located out of?
So for a long time, we had a 5,000 square foot office.
Yeah.
But it was really, really big, and it was tough to have because it wasn't really what we were best at. What we were best at was helping all these people, being mobile, being where we needed to be. And so we got rid of the office about 6 months ago, and we're literally everywhere. And I think being everywhere is really important as the remote world continues. We're going to continue to be really more remote.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what Mentorch is right now. We're extremely remote, and I think
I think a lot of people are kind of like, this is weird, and I'm
yeah,
like, actually, like I can help more people this
yeah,
way. So is it
well,
weird, or is it that you're not accepting of something that's going to be,
yeah, that's it. And if you're a startup and you're in the beginning stages like that, you should be remote. If you're looking at spending crazy amounts of money, you're gonna end up hurting yourself in the long run anyway. So
well, it's a great thing. Most people are spending money because they think they need to. You don't need to be spending. You probably don't need to spend any money. You need to spend the least amount of money as possible, even if you're making a crap ton of money. Why spend all this extra money if you don't have to? Like, it's really really silly in my opinion. And most things that we do cost us nothing.
right,
Maybe something that would scare someone, or a couple of bucks. Like, what's the price of a McDonald's Happy Meal? Like, that's it.
it's cheap.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I'm a company out there, up and coming, and I'm like, okay, how do I get to work with an awesome company like Hatch? What are the prerequisites? What is something that you look for? And maybe what are some things that you say those are red flags? We probably wouldn't work with you.
I mean, I would say first, like, are you willing to like learn, or are you just going to say like, I know what I'm doing? If you already know what you're doing, why are you looking for help?
Yeah.
So, I don't think the word is necessarily coachable, but I think coachable is a decent word for it. Like, are you willing to learn? Are you coachable? Can you be mentored? And then the prerequisite is, you're probably not a huge business to work with us.
No.
You're probably not like a big Fortune 500, but you're someone that is looking to take what you already have, or the concept that you have, and turn that into a reality, or turn that into more of what you want from it. And we have different kind of levels that people can come on as. So it's as simple as a couple of bucks a month, or several $1,000s a month. It just depends on how much of what we can do you want and can afford, really. And I think that's important. I think people have to have skin in the game, because if you don't have skin in the game, what's going to happen is you believe in it a different way. Right. It's almost like if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to pay someone else. And it just, I think skin in the game is really, 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 really important. And so when people are like, oh, I'm looking for a co-founder and I want to give them a piece of my company, I said, what are you willing to do to not have to have that co-founder, or not raise money for that business? Like, are you willing to learn that skill yourself, maybe? Are you willing to do the uncomfortable for a little bit? Because that's probably what you're going to have to do.
100%. Absolutely. People who are listening to this podcast, you are getting world-class advice right now for free. So make sure you're listening, tuning in. So what's the spot where Hatch is like, okay, this is awesome. When we first thought of this idea, this is what we were thinking. What is that point for you? I know that you're always working. You are a driven and goal-oriented person. So, you know, the journey itself is obviously going to be something that you love. But what's the point for you where you're like, this is what I was thinking of. This is what we envisioned, you and your team.
I think that changes. I think that we do a lot of things and get them to a point where, like, that worked out really well, and then usually we retire them.
Wow.
We did an event called Start Norfolk. We did it 5 times. It's a build a company a weekend competition. Yeah. Everyone, when we started doing it, told us we were stupid. It wasn't going to work. We did 5 times, 400 different ideas pitched, thousands of people attended. And we did our 5th time, and I was like, I think we're done. It was just like, it was time. And so things can have a happy ending, and sometimes we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and people are like, oh, that's what's needed. It's like, it maybe, or maybe like you want something fresh and new too, and you do something for so long. Like we just did our 4th State of the Startup Community address for our local community, and we do live in Norfolk, so we do a lot in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. And so, you know, we've done that 4 years, and it's like, well, should we keep doing that? You know, it definitely gets rave reviews. Like, people love it. People are excited about it. We can make some money on it. We can tell a good story. We can get some good exposure out of it. But, like, here's a great example. we just retired our coffee event today. Today was the last time we did a morning coffee every morning for I think 4 or 5 years. And I tried retiring it in August, but then a co-working space wanted to continue it, and then we decided mutually that it would be done. And so things just sometimes can be done. Like, honestly, if you're like thinking like, oh, should I keep doing this thing because I think I need to? Like, make sure you want to do it too.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just, you're not giving up, you're not quitting, you're just retiring something. Like, I don't think that's bad. People retire. Like,
absolutely.
If something had a good run for 4 or 5 years, that's better than the average running back in the NFL.
That's it.
See, compare your stats to the NFL and you can do just fine. No, but you got to have that fire all the time. You got to have that, like, want to do that thing. And I just remember, like, towards the end of this coffee thing, and it was fun. Probably got hundreds of clients out of it, maybe thousands. At the end, I was just like, man, every Tuesday morning, waking up at 6 to come to this thing, even if it's at my office, it just, I don't know, I wasn't in love with it anymore. No. And it was good from a results perspective, but I think you gotta want to do these things, and ultimately, I guess we retired it because I didn't really want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And was that the whole team was like, "Oh, we should keep doing it," and you're like, "Hey, look, this is the direction I think we should go in," or
as we started moving remote, I knew that we would be retiring things that we were doing that were maybe locally focused. So we were trying to not be as focused locally because our attention was starting to go towards clients that were elsewhere. Still have a footprint in our hometown. But if we did so much in our hometown, we weren't going to be able to facilitate what we promised and are being paid for by other people in other places, if you will. Right. And so I knew that things that were taking 6 hours a week of my time and then maybe some 6 to 12 hours of my team's time, we were going to have to think about that because could that 6 hours go somewhere else?
Absolutely.
And you go, oh, it's only 6 hours in a 40-hour week. It's a lot of time.
It is.
Because if you do 6 times 52 or 48, because we probably give away 4 weeks of vacation, you start going, wow, that's a lot of time. Is this really where I should be spending my time? And I think once you start looking at that, you're like, this is not there. And so even if people know you for that thing, stay in touch with them. Let them know that you're still doing things. But I mean, people retire events. Like, I think we have more exposure now that we've gotten rid of our office.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which some people would be like, oh, that would never happen. I'm like, if you know your brand and you understand your business, you should understand that just because you get rid of one thing doesn't mean much.
Change management it's always the hardest thing. As you're building something, it's like, okay, no one can say anything. But once something's established and then you need to change it, everybody freaks out. But then as time goes on, it seems like history is the best, judge of who is right. But you have to push your team. You have to push the people that you're surrounded with. Otherwise, they're not going to want to do it. And it always takes one person who's willing to be uncomfortable and different and think outside the box that propels the team forward later. And that's when they're like, oh, that was the right decision. But it takes that being uncomfortable and putting them in that situation in the first place.
But if you're not uncomfortable, you're probably at status quo.
100%. Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're cool with, maybe you're cool at your job or your business and where it is. Like, I want to be the majority owner of an amusement park. That's my ultimate bucket list, like, item.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money of net worth to have.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get that in one area.
Right.
So for me to hit that goal, I had to make changes to allow me to get to a bigger piece.
Definitely. What do you get from the community in Hatch? What would you say is one of the biggest benefits of being part of that community?
What's interesting is I used to call it one thing, and then our customers kept saying it was something else. Mm-hmm. So they would say like the network effect of what you get from my network or some of the teams or some of the other businesses in their networks. Yeah. Just because it's very opening and inclusive and trying to and welcoming to say, hey, like I need this. And then they say, oh, well, maybe so-and-so can help you with that. And then that referral goes a long way, maybe just the business they get out of it. Oftentimes we've been able to listen to someone's one question, kind of do a little bit of due diligence about their business, and then quickly analyze it and say, this is what you need to be doing. An example I'll give is there's a lady who owns a brick and mortar-ish kind of security business. So she mans brick and mortar businesses with like real people at like drugstores and retail places to make sure that those places are safe.
Yeah.
She was doing, I don't know, $60,000, $70,000 annually. And she wasn't afraid of sales at all. But so she'd walk into these places and be like, hi, I'm Tracy. I want you to buy my thing. I want you to buy my service. And people were like, nah, I don't want to talk to you. And I was like, Tracy, the problem, just as fast as me and you talking over the last like 10 seconds, Tracy, the problem is you're not afraid to do this, but people don't want to see you. So if you kind of create a sales funnel and understand that you need to educate them, introduce yourself, figure out if they're even the right fit at this point, and a couple other things, like if you follow that process, if you follow that path, follow that roadmap, things are going to change. So here's the really crazy thing. She was making what, like 60, 70 grand a year?
Yeah.
She's making like $40,000 a week now.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely that's a huge change.
It's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
Because most people already have every piece to the puzzle somewhere. Maybe it's in their mind. Maybe it's on a blog post. Maybe it's on their website. Maybe it's in a piece of paper. Maybe it's usually done.
Yeah.
It's just it's not massaged in the way that people are looking for that process to go. And instead, they just pick up the phone and say, hey, buy my thing.
Yep.
And most people are like, oh, cold call. I'm like, no, cold introduce yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you're afraid of calling, then don't pick up the phone. Don't do something that's uncomfortable. Email someone. Talk to them on Facebook. Maybe go to a networking event and meet them there. Like, don't do things that you don't want to do because you're not going to do them. Mm-hmm. But you have to introduce yourself. You can cold introduce yourself, I believe, or get an introduction, whatever it is. To me, on a funnel, those are the exact same line. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you're cold introducing yourself to someone, getting an introduce yourself to someone, or just figuring out that you have something in common with them. It's just you have to make that contact with them. That's the most important thing in that case.
Definitely. I love that. So we're going to keep going and probing your mind for knowledge. Sure. I consider you, and obviously my brother does too, a leader in the entrepreneur space. As you were coming up, did you have any mentorship that helped you along the way, or was it you had to figure everything out and you were on your own?
In life or in like the business career?
We can talk about in life and then going into business as you got older.
I think you always have mentors. I think your best mentors, you don't always necessarily know who they are when it's happening. So it could be your mom or dad growing up for a little bit, then your favorite teacher, maybe a coach that you have, maybe you're on the junior varsity, football team or swimming team or whatever it is, lacrosse team, and there's someone on the varsity team that you look up to, and he gives you like a little bit of information, or you watch him. I think mentorship doesn't have to be as like wing following as it used to be, where it's like, I need to guide you through this thing. I think there's kind of internet mentors now where people can be like, oh, I really like what that person said. I can implement it. Mentor can be from a book. There's so many different opportunities, I believe, there. But I think you almost always have a mentor, but most of the time you don't realize that mentor is your mentor until afterwards, until after you've probably gotten above them. And so a lot of times I think mentors are people who you want to get better than, and so you kind of learn from them in a plethora of different ways. So a lot of times, because of the things that I was trying to do in my market, that person didn't exist. So I had to create relationships, read books, watch YouTube videos of people that I admired, and then said, oh, how can I implement that myself? Yeah. And so the one person who I really love and mentor is Vince McMahon, who people would laugh saying that from WWE.
Yeah.
But
starting the XFL, right?
Yeah. Hey, you laugh now?
No, I think he's going to do something big with it.
I think it's going to be fine. But I mean, he took like a small local business and turned it into a $2 billion international juggernaut, right?
Yeah.
And is now starting his second football league, and many other things. He's been a huge philanthropist, and like he's just done something that's really remarkable to me. And so I watch a lot of stuff like that and say, oh wow, look what this guy's done, it's incredible. But I think the key to mentorship in anything is really, hey, can I act on this? Mm-hmm. Because if you can't act on something, if you can't figure out a way to take what that person is saying or doing or providing a message, if you can't act or figure out how to do that yourself, like, why are you consuming that content?
Yeah.
It's like, why go to a networking event, meet 5 people, and never follow up? It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. Like, figure out how you can act on stuff, or just waste your time. To me, I'd rather figure out ways to act on things. Definitely. And so if I'm consuming something and I think it sucks, like, I won't keep reading to hopefully it gets better. I'll just be like, no, it sucks, I'm done. like time is short, like life is short. Like, who knows how long we have in life, and I don't know how long I'm gonna last. I'm knocking on wood right now, hoping it's a lot longer than now. But like, I think we should live every day like it's our last, and it's if we're waiting for these moments to happen, like I have a good friend, Jeremy Johnson, who's on my podcast. He's like, I'm busting my tail now so that I can retire early. I'm like, screw that, man. Like, I don't want to, like, I can bust my ass now and like have a good life later. And it's just like, I'm not waiting for that moment. Like, I'm living that moment every single day. And I think like people are like, oh, I gotta like hustle and grind. Yeah, like, do uncomfortable things, but that doesn't mean work 24/7. Like, definitely. I sleep fine. Like, I get 8 hours of sleep a night. Like, I can consume things that I want to do. I can have fun. Like, I can go to the gym. I can go out with my friends. Like, you need to have a life. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a life, you're not going to be good at those other things. And most of the time, we can only do those things, do those tasks so much. Right. Like, I call it like being on your A game. Only be on your A game when you need to be. Look at professional athletes. They need to be on like, if you're an NFL player, you need to be on your A game for 16 games. Maybe a couple more. Most people's A games, like, oh, I'm going to work today. I need to be on my A game. For what? You have nothing important that day. Yes, practice hard. Do your work hard. But, like, don't, like, and I'm not saying, like, don't try and be better than you are. But, like, if you're researching something, you don't need to be, like, researching so hard that, like, you're using energy that's unnecessary. Right? It's kind of the same. You hear Mark Zuckerberg wears the same thing, Steve Jobs wears the same thing. It's like, use what you're best at when you need to. So I came on the show, and I was like, I'm going to be amazing. So I have to be on my A game right now. You are. And the only other time I was on my A game today was when I shot a podcast of my own. And that's it.
There we go.
But I don't, tomorrow, I'm not shooting a podcast. I'm not shooting an interview. Guess what? Zack Miller is not going to be on his A game because he doesn't need to be.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's kind of like the hunter, mindset. Like, preserve your energy when you can, and then freaking go buck wild when you need to. And that's, if you lived your life like you're saying 100% all the time, you're never gonna. You need to relax eventually.
Burnout.
Like. That's it in one phrase, burnout. Exactly. And
Allen Iverson said it in one word. We're talking about practice.
Yeah.
I mean, practice hard. Be good there.
Yeah.
Like, understand the game. Like, read tape, right? Like, prepare yourself. Be well versed in what you're doing, but don't go all out for no reason for something that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Why do you think guys figure out how to be better at their 40 time the last 4 months of their careers? Because they didn't need to do it, or those 4 months to combine, because it didn't matter before then, and then it never matters again. So figure out what you need to do, when you need to do it really well, but only be on your A game when like you need to. And I think people like mislead this whole hustle thing. And one of my tags is Hustle City, and the whole people like, well, that means like you're 24/7. I'm like, actually, it means like, go after what you want to do. If you want an action to happen, just make sure you do it. So like, Like, I tweet Vince McMahon every once in a while. I email him every once in a while. I'm like, yo, Vince, like, let's do this.
Has he answered back yet, or?
No.
He will.
Actually, I tried getting his wife on my show.
Yeah.
Now, if she ever watches this show, this is a little inside information.
We can make this happen.
I was going to woo her a little bit, be like, well, let's go out to dinner. Oh, is Vince around? Let's bring him too.
Yeah.
And so I would literally hang up this call right now, and Vince called and say, hey, we'll pick you up at the airport. I'll be there right now. I don't care. Like, I'll be in my pajamas, whatever. Like, I think I could learn so much I do learn so much from that guy. I'd like to thank him first, right? And
we can make this happen.
We all probably have that person.
Absolutely. Definitely. And so I just love, like, the whole concept of what you were saying. It's the way I kind of think about it, you can give your best without being 100% at all time, without being the road runner 100%. And you see how that works out for him. But just, when it's necessary. I think that applies. That's kind of the everything in moderation. Like, there's different ways of saying it, and I think
you're in the military, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they're preparing you for the worst case scenarios, right?
Absolutely.
But they're not putting you through the worst case scenario 24/7.
Yeah, usually they don't like shooting you with real bullets. Like, it's simulated. Right. It's simulated. But yeah, you do want it to be as realistic as possible. But again, it's during that time, and then you come back and you recharge, and then you go at it again. But again, I agree. Even the military sense, it's not 100% of the time. You work hard to play hard. That's where that comes from. You have to relax. So, but you're one of the only people who says who I've heard, like, verbalize it like that, especially someone who's what I consider a leader in the entrepreneur.
I mean, I bust my tail. I reach out to people. I do things.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll take a bubble bath if I need to.
No, it's important for people like you to say
that.
Because there's people, they're listening, they're hanging on every single word. They're like, okay, Zack Miller wants me to go to space and, like, just be absolutely nuts 100%. And then they're going to hear this and they're like, oh, okay, I can take it easy. So it's important.
But you have to be willing to do the uncomfortable thing, right? So, like, absolutely. I raise my hand a lot when I'm not necessarily being provided an opportunity. I just say, oh, wow, this sounds like an opportunity. Maybe I should talk myself into this. So you need to be prepared for those opportunities, but, like, I don't know, just raise your hand a lot, say yes a lot, sleep a lot, be willing to do uncomfortable things a lot, do really weird things like have a belt in the background that gets people to notice you. He
might be a fan of Vince McMahon. I just maybe.
Hey, we got 16 minutes before SmackDown's on. I gotta watch it.
Oh, we got to speed this up.
I'm kidding. Talk all night.
No, so we're gonna. I think you've already figured out if you want Zack to be your mentor, then you need to follow the advice he just said. So we're gonna go to the next question, which I think you can give a lot of insight. What's a key resource that you use that contributes to your success, whether it be a platform, program, a book?
I think it's my gut.
Cool. Haven't heard that one before. Okay.
So, I think you can look at every number in the world. You can understand how something's going to go, have the greatest business plan in the world, but your gut, your kind of street smarts, your intuition is what's really important. And if your gut's usually not wrong. And so there is a difference between, like, oh, I can just get through this because I can push through it.
Yeah.
And you not having a good business model and stuff like that. But, like, when something's going wrong. And so, like, your numbers could be like, oh my God, look at our growth this year. It was tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, there was one business in there that gave you a lot of money. That's a complete outlier that you're never going to get again. So that's sitting there in your gut, but you're like, oh no, this was the greatest year of all time. When that's actually not true. You actually had a down year without that one client. And so don't be mad about that client, but just make sure that, like, the full story. Yeah. Right? The numbers don't lie, but they usually don't tell a story. And so you have to then take that story with it and figure out how to formulate that and kind of work those things together. I will use numbers, though, and tell you something that I think is really important.
Yeah.
You probably have a CPA. and this is usually not your bookkeeper. Your bookkeeper might be able to do this, but your CPA, you're probably paying them thousands of dollars a year to do your to do your taxes, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Usually they will give you some sort of like free services because you're already paying them, and so kind of ask them to walk you through what your balance sheet is saying, what your P&L is saying, or like your transaction list, and say like, is this percentage okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I remember one time I was like, can you just walk me through like from a bulk standpoint where these things should be? And he's like, you're spending 15% on cleaning, and I'm like, excuse me?
What does that mean?
And I was like, I'm spending 15% of my budget on cleaning. And it wasn't 15. I can't remember the number.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I like to inflate numbers because it's fun for the
It's
purpose
for
of the
effect.
story.
Yeah.
But it was high is
Yeah.
the point. And I was like, wow, that's really overspending something where I could be putting that money somewhere else. And by getting someone who's unbiased, looking at your numbers, can be really important. Because look, like accountants like nerd out over this stuff. They don't care that you're on Facebook like doing whatever. They want to like run these numbers, and that's it. And so I just remember one time my accountant did this, and I tell people that all the time because I think it's really valuable, because you're probably not going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because they already are. And that's why most people don't do it, because they're like, oh, I don't want to pay that lawyer fee of $600. Like, if you're already paying them, they're probably going to give you, they're probably going to walk you through this thing for free.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, yeah, I definitely. So I don't have a CPA yet. That is something that we've talked about, and we'll get there eventually. So we're not quite at that level, but that's huge. Like,
maybe even just reaching out to one and say, hey, I'm kind of talking to different people. I'd love to pick your brain about some of these things. This is kind of generally what we're doing. Can you give me a general look at my books or something like that? They might even do that for free.
Oh, yeah, that's what they do.
So then you have I think there are certain times when asking and bartering are acceptable.
Yeah.
With service providers like that, I think bartering is fine. Like those people who are making $600 an hour, like try and get something out of them for free, because those are big fees for an early stage business to have to pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
And usually they're willing to kind of pocket some of that for a while, or not charge you for it for a while, or maybe there's different ways that they can receive that money in different ways. And I think with service providers, that's a good way to do it, like a legal or an accountant type of service provider.
No, I love that. I'm already gonna take that myself. I'm gonna do that. So let's see, what is the biggest obstacle that you've ever faced, and either you got over it with the help of a mentor, or it would have been helpful if you had a mentor at the time?
Firing my first employee, like full-time employee, was really painful. That happened this year.
Yeah.
I thought about it for a long time. There was a lot of reasons why. I cried when it happened. I talked to a lot of people about it. And ultimately, as the business was kind of changing into different ways, that role was going less and less. And that role was producing less and less because of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as we're doing less locally, that role is making less locally. But I wanted to hold on to it because that person had been loyal to me.
Yeah.
And so I started having conversations saying to everyone, guys, like, if we don't figure this out, like, these are the type of things that are going to happen. And ultimately, I'd been thinking about doing it for a while, and then finally did it. And there was relief afterwards, but it was very painful, and actually a lot more. We're still very cool. We'll still text each other, and like, it was no hard feelings or anything like that. Like, have helped with references, all that type of stuff. Let him use gear for as long as he could. Gave him some sort of severance package so that he could stay on his feet. And I think as long as you're not being like a complete a-hole to someone, like, and you're just honest with them, like, it's a very painful thing.
Yeah.
But I remember the night before, like I cried, like I'm not going to do this, like I have to do this, I'm not going to do this, I have to do this. Oh, I'm gonna wait, like, and I'd have those moments, like, and I had sleepless nights for a long time. Like it actually was last year, I guess, wouldn't be this year, but it is not fun. But I think my gut told me for a while to do that thing.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm actually talking about this, so it's really interesting. But it was like this person's kind of become a friend. Like I don't want ill things for this person. And when it all went down, I tried explaining that. Yeah, so as time went by, like it seemed like everything, and even actually really quickly things were okay. And this person like has like a solid resume, like great, like would very quickly get on their feet.
Yeah.
But I never wanted that person to be in a bad situation, and it's kind of like failing in a way, I guess. Like you failed that person, you failed that spot, you failed this whole thing, in a way. But most importantly, it's like a learning experience, and try and really learn from it. And like if you're gonna lose, if you're gonna fail, like you better damn learn from it, because if you don't, you won't. You'll make that same mistake again. And I usually don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, no, that is one of the most hard things I can ever imagine you doing, and I'm working with a team that I can't even bring myself to think about that right now.
I've let people
that's
go.
super hard. Yeah.
Like in other places, I've let people go that were like part-time and contractors and stuff like that. And those were hard conversations too. But this one was really, really hard. But it's, I guess it's over now.
Yeah.
They're in a better position, and we're cool. So
yeah, and this is a good, to me, this is a good ending, because you hear some crazy stories where both people don't end up friends anymore and they hate each other, and then the business is no, this seems like two adults who figured it out.
It's also about communication.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to communicate like as much of the truth as possible, I mean, sometimes you can't be so transparent.
Yeah.
Like, and I was very honest. And yeah, I mean, yeah, adults being adults.
Absolutely. So when you have tough times like this, especially that situation, and what like short mantra or poem or just what thoughts do you think to yourself that's going to keep your passion on fire and keep you motivated every day?
I control everything I want to do. Like I'm it. Like if I want to take over the world, like I'm the person holding myself back.
Yeah.
So if you want an action to happen, create that action.
Is that something that's written on your mirror? Did you read that somewhere? Okay, I like it.
Know
yeah.
it. I mean, my favorite quote was probably like, "Everything happens for a reason."
Yeah.
That's from Lost, by the way, my favorite TV show of all time. No, I think I just said it once. Yeah. I think that's actually my quote. Like, so I'm like super excited about it. I should
trademark.
If you want an action to happen, I need to write that down right now.
You do, man, because I'm gonna steal it if you don't.
No, it's mine.
Really good.
That's kind of what Hustle City means, right? It's like if you want an action to happen, if you want this thing to happen, like do what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And so there are times, like, look, we all have low times. We all have times where we like to be in better positions. But, and by the way, like, we usually those positions don't happen overnight on the negative, and they're not going to happen overnight on the positive to get through those issues. So you have to do a bunch of little things for the positive to happen. And so, like, if you're trying to lose weight, let's say you're 100 pounds overweight. Well, you didn't gain 100 pounds, over one night. So it's probably going to take you however many days it took you to gain that weight to lose that weight. And so I think all too often people are like, oh, I can do this so quickly. And it's like, think about it in a lifespan, like in a career. So people ask me, like, what's your favorite career stat? It's like the all-time leader in this thing. Because it's really hard to have a successful career.
Yeah.
You can have moments or years of success, I think it's really easy to get to the top. I think it's really hard to stay at the top.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard to become like the career leader in that thing. And I like to use sports, analogies.
Yeah.
But like that, like Emmitt Smith, I think is the number one all-time running back, right? He had some good years. He had some bad years. He was on some good teams, some bad teams. But he's the greatest running back of all time from yards. Maybe not the actual greatest running back of all time. Who knows who that is. But if career is that metric that's really, really difficult, and I want to make the Hall of Fame a business. I have no idea what that looks like. Maybe it's me owning that amusement park, right? Yeah. But like, that is what it means to me. I don't want to, have one viral moment. I don't want to have one great interview with someone. I don't want to interview someone that's really famous once. I want to do all of those things, plus have a successful business and a successful family, which I don't really talk about publicly. Be happy and have this amazing business career where people are like, oh, wow. This guy wasn't here for a day. He's been doing this for decades, and he is clearly the best. Because you don't hear about these people, for one movie. Mm-hmm. They can be one and done, but you hear about these people that have been there forever. Morgan Freeman, Tom Hanks. These are the best. These are the GOATs. I want to be the GOAT.
They're icons. Yep, absolutely.
And this guy got so passionate, the thing fell down. Yeah.
No, I love that. All right, so you've watched Lost. You're a Vince McMahon fan. So we can get weird here. Have you seen Stranger Things? I'm probably gonna make it.
It's weird. I don't like sci-fi.
Moment. You said you don't like sci-fi?
I don't like sci-fi.
Dang. Okay.
You know what?
Yeah.
I have a habitual nature to me. So like if there's a new and I tell my team this too, like, don't tell me what to watch on TV, because I will literally come in tomorrow and have it watched. Yeah. I watched Lost for the third time when Netflix came out, like in a stream, in 15 days.
So don't watch Black Mirror.
I heard I need to watch that. I watched The Office in like 6 days. Bad. And I just heard a story that Netflix called some guy and was like, are you okay? You keep watching The Office and you've watched it in like 4 days. I'm like, I did that. They didn't call me. I don't want to be the career best in Netflix watching.
Well, something I was thinking about, I'm like, I promise I have a point. Stranger Things, and people who know Stranger Things are like, oh, okay, I see how you did it there, but that's a stretch, Levante. But there's a scene where she's like beating up the monster, and I can't even remember the name, but she has like this.
Stranger Things, there's a monster.
It's crazy. Stranger Things is nuts. But
I'm gonna watch it.
She like beats up the monster, and she pretty much sacrifices herself. And how she does it is she uses an insane amount of energy. And I don't know, I'm weird, so that's when I had my epiphany. Was like, wow, that's kind of like business. Is it takes an insane amount of energy to do that. You can't just kind of want it. You can't just lukewarm want it. You have to want it 100%. You have to go all in it, the same thing, and really be invested in it. So that's my Stranger Things connection, and everybody else is gonna be like, okay.
I mean, I think that's like, we have changed some of the services or products or tools or ways that we communicate and deliver things to people, but it's always been about kind of helping people get in front of more people, make more money, get more customers, get more social media engagement. Like, it's always been around that kind of marketing thing, entrepreneurship thing, but it could just hit. I think the core has always been the same, and I think that's what you're saying, and I think it's so true.
Definitely. So we know you're going to be and you said an amusement park.
Majority owner.
I haven't even heard of that.
Because I can buy a stock in amusement parks. I already have that. That's not that exciting.
We got technical difficulties. We got through it.
Okay.
No. So you said you could buy stock today, and that wouldn't be exciting?
Yeah, I do. I own a
You already
business, probably
you're
the
already
best
good.
amusement park collaboration.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it.
Yeah.
It's called Cedar Fair. They own probably, well, I own it too, so technically I'm a minority owner in Cedar Fair, trading at Fun, F-U-N.
Absolutely.
Get some stock today. No, it's not fun because I don't have like control. I can't do anything. I'm not like there building things. Like,
I'm just curious, before we close out, what attracted you to the amusement park so much?
So 9th or 10th grade, I had to do a stupid science fair project or history project, and somehow like I rented a roller coaster book. I had just gone on an amusement park and something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll do it on this park, Cedar Point, Sandusky, Ohio.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like the internet was becoming a thing. It's like 97, 98. So now I can download and look at all these websites, which I wish I would have created content then.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think the internet is like compound interest that you learn about from a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
Like every day that you didn't do it, you're losing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I do this project, probably 98. I get an A on it, and I'm like, oh, I really like roller coasters. And then I went to that park, and I was like, oh, I was hooked. And so I'm not as like ridiculous about it as I used to be, but like high school, probably all of high school, I went to different amusement parks all summer. Been to, I don't know how many amusement parks, but 150 different roller coasters. I've driven as far as from Virginia to Indiana and flown as far as Virginia to California.
Wow.
But I haven't done that super crazy thing. I want to convince my wife. I know she never watches these things, so I can say all this stuff. Like, I want to convince my wife to go on an amusement park trip this summer.
Yeah.
And go back to Ohio, which is probably the best state for amusement parks. And
Pretty cool.
yeah. So, listen, honey, if you're watching, which I know you're not, we're going on a trip. And we're not going somewhere tropical.
She's like, Aruba. No, I'm super excited to see this. Like, and see as you continue on your journey, and I know you're gonna make it happen. It's just a matter of time. So.
Yeah, I mean I know that I have to do a lot of things to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do things that might be super uncomfortable, and that's okay. Life moves on.
That's it. Torch holders, we have arrived at the point in our program where Zack is going to have 1 minute to pass the torch and leave a legacy. We all know that a mentor is a person who's achieved a level of success that we desire and can effectively guide us to success as well. Based on the success you, Zack, have achieved at this point in your life, if you could pass the torch and leave a legacy message to your former self or someone in a similar situation, how would you pass the torch in 1 hot minute?
I believe that you should be yourself and do not ever try to be anyone else. Be who you are, be genuine to that. And if you live that every day, I think good things will happen. How about 5 seconds?
Boom! Hey, that's it. They need to take that down and then go do it. That's it. Actually,
yeah, I mean,
go do it.
Don't try and be someone else. Like, that person is unique. So are you. Figure out what you're unique at.
This was Zack Miller, founder of Hatch. Go to startwithhatch.com. Where else can they find you?
Well, the reason it's startwithhatch.com is because the hatch.com domain was not available. and the hatch.co domain at one point was available.
Yeah.
They went like $15,000.
Yeah.
And I was early in the business, and I was like, I am not spending $15,000. All of our handles are at startwithhatch, I believe. Website startwithhatch.com. You can find me at Zack, Z-A-C-K, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R 84 on Twitter, Facebook, wherever else things are distributed. The thing I'm most passionate about, though, I would say, is this podcast that we have called The 1004 Show. If you just go to startwithhatch.com, there's a link for the podcast there. Or on iTunes, search 1000 FOUR Show, where you can catch me in action as well.
There you go. Find Zack Miller. Find his team. This has been Zack Miller, Levante on Pass the Torch podcast, reminding you to seek knowledge and pass the torch.